Welcome back to another edition of the Sal Greco Show. And on this edition of Sal Greco Show, we're going to touch up on a couple of topics. First, we have a after party or party, some kind of convention that was held by the New York City Mayor Eric Adams and the New York State Governor Kathy Hochul for the Vice President of the United States and presumptive Democrat nominee for President Kamala Harris. The party did turn into a chaotic mess. Protesters show up. They were fighting with cops. We're going to show you a little bit of the footage. Then we're going to discuss another topic. Kamala Harris, who is the Vice President of the United States, she is a female. I think she's a pro-feminist. I mean, she always talks about abortions and women's rights, believe all women. But yet she takes the endorsement of Eric Adams, who is embroiled in so many scandals, I've lost count. But one scandal that we actually touched up on not too long ago was a sexual assault lawsuit that Eric Adams had. And the accuser is being browbeaten by his attorney. And Kamala Harris, who says believe all women, is silent on the fact that she took the endorsement of a guy who is alleged to have sexually assaulted a female, abusing his authority as a police officer or the sergeant at the time. And she's silent about that. Her campaign has nothing to say about that. I thought we believed all women. Then we have a migrant crime wave that has infected this country, has now hit Coney Island, Brooklyn, a place I hold near and dear to my heart. I worked there for 8 years in a disgusting incident. A rape took place there, and we're going to get into that one. And finally, on the prior episode, we discussed an incident that occurred between a very prominent journalist in New York City, Rocco Parascandolo, and Kaz Dawdry, who's the NYPD Deputy Commissioner of Operations. Apparently, they kissed and made up, and then some interesting information and lawsuit about the information of that lawsuit came out in regards to Kaz Dawdry over an incident that occurred in May of 2023. And we're going to get into that and a little bit more right now. So, an incident occurred in New York City during a party that was held by New York City Mayor Eric Adams with plenty of prominent Democrats in attendance, including the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, for the Democrat presumptive nominee for president and vice president of the United States right now, Kamala Harris. And chaos ensued inside the place, outside the place. And I'm going to show you some footage from, go to this person's ex, Scooter Caster NY. She goes by also freedomnews.tv. Check her out on X. She has great footage. She's a great investigative and journalist, and she puts out a lot of stuff that happens not only in New York City, but in the country. And she's there on scene, and it's like, oh my God, you see this footage, and then it goes viral because other news outlets pick it up. But she's a great investigative journalist. I want you to check her out. Scooter Caster NY, at Scooter Caster NY. Check out her page, and we're going to roll right into the footage. And then the actual article that was written about the incident. the article. Disorganized NY Dem rally to endorse Harris, infiltrated by anti-Israel protesters who clashed with cops at after party. A hastily organized rally supporting Vice President Kamala Harris descended into chaos after anti-Israel protesters infiltrated the Big Apple event and later barged into an after-party venue, causing several $1,000s worth of damage to its outdoor space. Several demonstrators against Israel's military campaign in Gaza were booted from the Democratic gathering in Harlem, where Mayor Eric Adams gave an impassioned speech. "Make sure you vote," Hisner chanted as the disruptors were dragged from the tiny venue in Upper Manhattan. Adams stood with other prominent elected state Democrats, including City Council Speaker Adrian Adams, who is not related to the mayor, and Governor Kathy Hochul, as he endorsed the party's presidential ticket. The angry mob of around 50 protesters even stormed into the restaurant, bird in hand, at Broadway and West 146th Street as stunned patrons looked on, according to footage from the scene. Other videos showed cops taking rabble-rousers into custody as the crowd circled the police. Whistles and horns sounded and smoke bombs were also set off during the brouhaha. One protester appeared to try to swipe at cops with a cardboard sign, leading several officers to grab the demonstrator and arrest her on the sidewalk, more footage showed. At another point, authorities chased after another on Broadway during a brief encounter. "Free Gaza" was also graffitied on a police car, and an anti-Israel poster with the words "No votes for Bombalah's genocide" was briefly plastered on a restaurant window. At least 14 people were taken into custody, according to police. Bird in Hand owner Brian Felicita told the Post he estimated damages to the restaurant's outdoor seating area were at least a few $1,000s. He will have a better idea Thursday when he surveys the aftermath. "It's my flowers that took the worst of this beating." He said a handful of people from the community swung by for an informal dinner after the rally, and he suspects some protesters followed the group to the restaurant. He credited police for their quick action and his staff for handling the situation appropriately. "Nothing really came up besides us, a small business, mom-and-pop business in New York. I'm going to be the one waking up in the morning fixing all this," Felicita said. "Myself and my business partner were both born and bred New Yorkers. We're for everybody, so I don't know what the target or intention was based around this, but it makes no sense to me," he added. Before the night descended into chaos, several sources in political circles questioned the mayor's motivation for being at Wednesday's rally backing Harris, with one source telling the Post that he must see his Trump pardon slipping away, referring to the legal woes which have embroiled Adams and his administration of late. It is cute to see an event with zero official DNC representation being headlined by Mayor Adams, who to this day refuses to criticize Trump, pretending to be a supporter of the Democrat Party, they added. It is cute to see an event organized with zero official DNC representation being headlined by Mayor Adams, who to this day refuses to criticize Trump, pretending to be a supporter of the Democrat Party, they added. The source also noted that Harris, 59, and Walz, 60, were absent despite being prominently featured on the event's flyer and confusing some who attended the rally. The Veep hopeful spoke in Boston on Wednesday. "I thought they would be here," one attendee said to a group of people who nodded in agreement before promptly leaving the venue. Organizer Corey Ortega said Harris and Walz are confident with their support in the state. "They have to hit other states that require the political presence," he added. The hasty rally comes just days before the Democrat National Convention kicks off in Chicago. "I am so energized and so excited about heading off to Chicago and bringing home a victory," Hochul told the packed room Wednesday night. Another night in New York City turns into chaos. This is a recurring theme. It's been going on since last October. Now, I don't know if these rioters or protesters are actually Palestinians or Arabic. They look very organized, though. And I know that some of them caused a lot of damage. There should be felonious charges thrown at them, or felony charges, because it's a felonious act, the stuff that they were doing. They should also be looked at for domestic terrorism charges. Unfortunately, this is Alvin Bragg's New York City. He's the district attorney, and I'm sure he's going to give them a slap on the wrist, Some will get declined prosecutions. Others will be charged with the smallest thing you could possibly find, and they will be back out there on the streets. The NYPD, instead of going after the low-hanging fruit, should actually put their resources into finding the organizers, the funders of this kind of activity and behavior. You're not going to solve the problem by going after the low-hanging fruit, and that's a fact. So this is a reoccurring theme in the NYPD where they're going to come out, pout their chest, and say, we got rid of the rioters and the protesters. This will not stand in New York City. That would be Eric Adams. This will not stand in New York City, but you're going after the low-hanging fruit. We need domestic terrorism charges. That's what you need to hit these people with. Hitting them with trespassing and, disorderly conduct, that gets thrown out, and then the city's going to end up paying the bill. You know why? They're going to sue for false arrest when there's declined prosecutions, and then basically they're getting paid to act like animals. So I don't know what the point of this was, but this is a nightly occurrence in New York City. And then we're going to go into the next theme here, the next subject, which is Kamala Harris taking an endorsement from Eric Adams, who's embroiled in a sexual assault case. So believe all women, except if they're accusing the Democrat Party or the radicals in the Democrat Party, because they seem to have radical ideas and they're not in any kind of common sense field, especially Kamala Harris. So let's get into this article. Adams' sex assault accuser IDs people with knowledge of her claims, but his lawyer demands more info. The lawyer that the taxpayers of New York City are paying for, even though under GML 50K2, we never got a letter explaining why Eric Adams is being represented for sexually assaulting a woman during his tenure as a cop, and that would be illegal and actually misconduct on the part of the Corporation Counsel. Remember that? A woman who's accusing Mayor Adams in a civil lawsuit of sexually harassing her over 3 decades ago recently filed papers identifying more than 50 people who have allegedly have personal knowledge about her claims. But the mayor's lawyers argues her information is overly vague and wants a judge to order she provide more specifics, a.k.a. he's browbeating her. Adams accuser Lorna Beach Mathura divulged the identities of the individuals in questions last month in filings made as part of the discovery process in a lawsuit against the mayor, according to a letter filed in Manhattan Supreme Court on Monday by Alex Spiro, a high-profile attorney retained to represent Adams in the case, which the city's paying for. Spiro's letter says her filing alleges those she named generally have personal knowledge about her accusation that Adams sexually assaulted her in 1993 while they were both working for the city's since defunct Transit Police Department, a claim he vehemently denies. In his filing, Spiro also wrote, Beach Mathura has provided the names of a list of individuals she says she spoke directly with about the alleged assault. However, Spiro wrote in a letter that the information Beach Mathura has provided is deficient for several reasons. For instance, he said Beach Mathura hasn't identified a date or approximate date in 1993 on which she claims to have told 3 individuals directly about the alleged assault. This submitted information is highly relevant, Spiro wrote, arguing he suspects Beach Mathura isn't providing those details because she's trying to backfill the details of her story. Spiro does acknowledge in this letter that Beach Mathura identified approximate dates, month, and year for when she told other individuals later on about the alleged assault. Still, Spiro wrote, Beach Mathura must furnish more information about details surrounding this alleged assault and requested that Manhattan Supreme Court Justice Richard Lattin schedule a hearing on this matter is required. To do so, Beach Mathura's lawyer, Megan Goddard, declined to comment Wednesday. Spiro didn't respond to email questions, but Lisa Zornberg, Adams' chief counsel of City Hall, said in a statement that Beach Mathura has provided little information in response to multiple requests, and we are now seeking appropriate relief from the court. Beach Mathura first filed a notice of claim in November notifying Adams she was suing him and the city for at least $5 million under the Adult Survivors Act, which opened up a 1-year window for sexual misconduct victims to sue their perpetrators, even in statutes of limitations that expired. Beach Mathura, an ex-transit police administrative employee, filed a lawsuit in March alleging that Adams tried to force her to perform oral sex on him in his car in 1993 after meeting with him to talk about a work issue. Beyond denying the accusation, Adams has said he doesn't recall ever meeting Beach Mathura. Spiro, a celebrity attorney known for representing Elon Musk and Jay-Z, was retained by the city as Adams' attorney in the case this spring after the city law department said it needed his help in representing the mayor to ensure the agency can, quote, maximize its existing resources on numerous other matters, end quote. The city's working along with Spiro on the case. Yeah, you're like in the city spending God knows how much money defending somebody who clearly knows who this woman is, who he worked with. Yeah, this is unbelievable. So as you can hear by the article I just read off, this is a unbelievable turn of events here with Eric Adams in this sexual assault lawsuit, because the lawyers from the city, now remember, under General Municipal Law 50K2, I don't know, nobody understands why the Corporation Council, which is funded, the taxpayers are paying for this, why they are representing Eric Adams in a sexual assault case, because sexual assault does not fall under the scope of duties for a New York City police officer or any employee of the city. I don't read anywhere in a patrol guide where it says a police officer on or off duty can sexually assault anyone they want. Somebody explain this not only to me, but to the lawyers, the media, the viewers out there. Where did they get this legal definition? We need a legal definition of why they represented Eric Adams to begin with, because the taxpayers are funding the bill. And then the lawyer is browbeating this victim, which is all they do in the city. They browbeat everybody. You except if you're a pro-Palestinian rider, no browbeating there. We're sorry we even arrested you. In fact, we're going to hand you money when you sue us. I mean, that seems to be the policy of New York City. But how does Kamala Harris accept this endorsement? She is a pro-feminist. She's all about abortions and screaming up and down about women's rights. And yet, here's a victim that is claiming the guy that endorsed you, that's mayor of New York City, that's holding this big rally and whatever dinner for you, sexually assaulted this woman when he was a cop. He abuses authority as a cop, that somehow the city is funding that defense of him. And you're sitting there saying, well, I have no problem taking his endorsement as long as you give me my black faith leaders backing me up and endorsing me. I'll even pardon you. I mean, that's what we're reading in between the lines and what sources are telling me. This is unbelievable. I mean, this woman might be just as conflicted as Eric Adams is. I thought Eric Adams was the most conflicted human being, I've ever done any kind of research or encountered in my life. Maybe Kamala Harris might be joining that party. And now the next topic, this incident that happened in Coney Island, a disgusting incident. I'm going to play the video that I had released immediately in regards to this. I covered this what happened right away. And then I'm going to read you the article in regards to this incident, which is even more disturbing. So here it is. Well, folks, here it is again. Something that actually occurred, a disgusting incident that occurred in Coney Island, a place that I worked for 8 years of my career. And we had our fair share of illegal immigrants, driving drunk and causing crime and other stuff. But this is the migrant crime wave that has been unleashed, not only on America, but in particular New York City, due to the ineptitude of one, President Joe Biden, and of course, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who's just as complicit as Joe Biden. And I just want you to see this. I was a cop for 8 years, like I stated, in Coney Island. This is a heinous attack. Number one, I want you to know that there's a Coney Island detail that's out there, meaning there's supposed to be cops on each corner, West 8th Street, West 16th Street. This is literally right down the street and to the right of where the 60th Precinct Station House is. Surf Avenue is always full of people, whether it's 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, there's amusement rides there. The problem is, back in my day, we enforced anybody that was sleeping under the boardwalk. They got thrown out of there. Okay, they either were sent to the hospital or whatever was going on, it was a criminal act. They were arrested for or summons for them. We got them out of there. Okay, it was a record low crime in Coney Island, especially in the boardwalk during my time when I was there. Now, are there even enough cops to enforce the law? Thanks to Eric Adams, who says, we are going to cut the bureaucracy in the NYPD and we were going to eliminate administrative units so there's more cops in the street and not acting as secretaries. But meanwhile, we have active duty cops, 80 of them in DCPI, a unit that only needs about 4 cops and a supervisor. And we don't know, there's an untold amount of active cops allegedly in a social media unit for Deputy Commissioner of Operations, Kaz Dordry, a civilian who somehow, we don't know his legal authority in the NYPD, nor can we get a definition for it, who has cops working underneath them who are active duty, searching online for videos just like this, and people that are critical of him, such as myself, or John Macari, or Eric Dim. And we're not even critical of him. We're critical of the leadership in the NYPD. So I am disgusted by this. I can't believe this happened in Coney Island. I can't believe we don't have the personnel to see something like this forthcoming. This is disgusting and a disgrace, and it needs to be handled. Eric Adams, you should be ashamed of yourself. If you can't handle this, you should be lobbying the state legislator. You should be lobbying city council, the judges, change the bail reform. This kind of stuff has to stop. These people should have been deported, especially the person that committed a rape last year. Why were they allowed to stay in the country? Disgrace. ICE had detained him for migrant accused of raping woman under Coney Island boardwalk, but he was never deported. The migrant from Nicaragua, who allegedly raped a woman at knife point in Coney Island, had a federal immigration detainer placed on him after a prior sexual assault, but he was still free to roam around New York months after his release from jail. It's not clear why agents from the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement didn't pick up Daniel Davan Bonilla, 24, but officials, including the illustrious mayor of New York, Eric Adams, blamed the Big Apple sanctuary city laws, which bar local authorities from cooperating with ICE in any way. Laws do not allow us to coordinate with ICE. That's the law, Hisner said at a Tuesday press conference. I'm not happy about that. I think he's the poster child of what's wrong with not doing that coordination, Adams said of Davan Bonilla. It's clear that he does not deserve to be in our city. Sources said ICE had issued a detainer for Davan Bonilla when he was arrested in 2023 for allegedly raping a woman at the La Quinta Hotel on 3rd Avenue in Gowanus, which had been turned into a migrant shelter. An immigration detainer is a notice issued by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and sent to local, state, or federal law enforcement agencies that says ICE wants to nab of somebody who is already in custody. ICE agents said that the city's policies have hurt their ability to round up hardened criminals like Davan Bonilla, who spent a year behind bars before inking a plea deal with Brooklyn prosecutors that freed him from Rikers in June. They just won't honor detainers, a DHS source said on Tuesday, referencing the city's law enforcement agencies. ICE probably didn't know that the guy was released, the source continued. The city council has made it absolutely impossible. We might not even know about the case until we read it in the Post. Davan Bonilla, who DHS sources said entered the country illegally through Eagle Pass, Texas on December 7, 2022, was busted just 4 months later in Brooklyn. He was charged with criminal sexual act, unlawful imprisonment as a hate crime, sexual misconduct, and sexual abuse for the April 3rd, 2023 attack at the La Quinta, according to a criminal complaint. Davan Bonilla was behind bars for about a year before he took the plea deal that downgraded his charges to assault in the second degree and put him back on the street in June, according to corrections officials and Brooklyn prosecutors. The Brooklyn District Attorney's Office struck the deal because the victim did not want to testify, a spokesperson said. Law enforcement sources noted the federal agency could have tracked the case online to see when he was expected to be released. The status of criminal cases is public record, and any person or entity can easily monitor their statuses and outcomes online, a rep for the DA's office said Tuesday. Our office is generally unaware of defendants' immigration status, and we don't contact ICE after pleas. Davan Bonilla, who has no known address, now faces up to 7 years in the earlier case for violating the terms of the deal and with his new, and also, the new arrest, the rep said. He and another migrant were arrested and charged with a litany of crimes stemming from the alleged Sunday morning rape near Surf Avenue, West 16th Street. Cops and sources said Davan Bonilla grabbed a 46-year-old woman, threw her to the ground, and raped her as he held a knife to her throat. The victim told cops she had been living under the boardwalk with her boyfriend for 2 weeks, the sources added. Davan Bonilla's alleged accomplice, Leandro Moreno, 37, of Mexico, smashed the woman's 34-year-old boyfriend with a pipe when he tried to stop the vicious assault. Authorities charged Davan Bonilla with first-degree rape, second-degree assault, first-degree sexual abuse, menacing, and criminal possession of a weapon, the sources added. He pleaded not guilty to the charges during a late-night arraignment in Brooklyn's criminal court on Monday. A judge ordered him held without bail, and he will return to court Friday. City Councilman Bob Holan, a Queens Democrat, said Davan Bonilla's alleged foul act was a direct result of City Hall's refusal to act and work with ICE to keep our community safe, leaving us vulnerable to those who should have been deported. Instead of being turned over to ICE after being arrested, convicted, and sentenced, this sicko was released back into the streets only to commit the same vile sexual assault again, Holden told the Post, adding that his proposed bill reversing the Big Apple sanctuary laws was dead on arrival in the city council. We already have enough criminals in the street. Why should we continue importing more? The councilman continued. The madness in this city must end. At the press conference, Adams called the situation really problematic. This is the challenge that we're facing, the mayor said. The overwhelming number of migrants in the city that are here, they're trying to do the right thing as they take their next step onto their journey. But you do have that small number that's problematic. Hearing this, I work there. It's just, I know exactly the area, West 16th Street, Surf Avenue. This is an area where families walk by. They go on the boardwalk. There's an amusement area. The problem with all of this is, the sanctuary city laws. Listen, this is the problem. Back in 2014, I was there. I was in the New York City Police Department at the time. Bill de Blasio signed an executive order. And that order had stated that the New York City Police Department could not cooperate with ICE. So when you arrest a perpetrator who is undocumented, he's an illegal immigrant, okay, and he has an ICE detainer warrant, meaning he has a warrant out for whatever the case may be that Homeland Security is looking for him. Now, we, as the New York City Police Department, would notify ICE. People at Central Booking, Central Booking that's where we take all the perpetrators. We go there and put them there to get processed for their arrest. If they would catch it, they would have to run the individual in the system and it would show up. It will say ICE detainer. That means they would have to notify Homeland Security. Bill de Blasio cut this out. So now it's an executive order. All Eric Adams has to do is rescind that executive order. You understand what that means? He has to rescind it. But Eric Adams, he will not ever think about doing that. And for those who think that he's a closet Republican or a Trump supporter, let me tell you something. This guy only worries about one thing, Eric Adams, and how people perceive him. He doesn't care about Republican and Democrat. At least that's my opinion. That's how it looks. But this entire situation, with no cooperation from ICE because of this executive order, is ridiculous. Now, I understand there's other laws and city council passed, but the actual phone call from the police department to Homeland Security is one simple rescinding of an executive order. And then that relationship, to the very least of a phone call to tell them, hey, we have one of your guys here at Central Booking, that would start, that would at least stop someone like this from having to go back out there because they'll get released, because that's New York City in a nutshell. They'll be released back into the public, and then they'll go out and do more damage. What's funny here is that one of these individuals was released after they cut a plea deal with Brooklyn prosecutors. How do you cut a plea deal if you're in jail for a rape and then you get out? And was he a registered sex offender? How did that slip through? There's a lot of questions here, and I'm going to tell you this. New York City has become basically a place where they love to harbor criminals. It's pro-criminal. It's citizen last, criminal first. The laws and the behavior and conduct of those in charge, whether it be in law enforcement, upper echelon, guys running the NYPD, and the courts, meaning judges and the legislators and the governor, are very much pro-criminal. They love criminals unless they do something to hurt them politically or maybe to them personally, like Tish James, who has a personal vendetta against Donald Trump. And then she loves to hang out with criminals and felons herself at this Boyd up in the Bronx, which is now shuttered. But that's another story. But this is a recurring problem. And I really hope that personnel-wise, the NYPD, they have a Coney Island detail, like I stated. And I don't know why or where these cops were or why there's not. I don't think there's enough cops in the street because, again, they're being put into these administrative units that Eric Adams said he was going to eliminate. And the deputy mayor of public safety, Philip Banks, said we were going to eliminate. That was one of his things. I remember as the chief of department of NYPD, he hated that cops were in administrative units. Yet they're all over the place in administrative units right now under Eric Adams. Some are even in some hideaway unit under the NYPD Deputy Commissioner of Operations, Kaz Daughtry. And speaking of this gentleman, now, Kaz Daughtry, who we covered in the last episode, who threatened a reporter, and apparently they kissed and made up. I mean, I believe that Kaz Daughtry was told to do this, okay? And remember, he's a very abusive person to the coworkers he has, the media, journalists, and the people he deals with in the street. There is numerous videos of this gentleman interacting with the public that is very questionable behavior.
51 allegations, Daughtry. 51. That's a high score. That's crimes against humanity.
Look up Jordan Neely. Look what he did at the protest for Jordan Neely. Cracked open a trans person's face. Oh look, he even had, oh yeah, I like it. Okay.
I have a body cam like the police. I'm a civilian, I don't need one. And I'm a protester. And I got one.
I'm here for the people.
We know. Try anything on me. I got it on now.
I'm not a cop anymore. I'm a
You're
civilian.
not? You're just the commissioner?
I got the same rights as you.
Really?
A little more power.
Oh, for real? So we can go in the street right now and duke it out? Is that what you're saying? I'm ready, let's go.
Go ahead.
For real?
I dare you.
So we're not equal then? Well, you're saying that you're just an average Joe.
Come on in.
Oh, yeah? What, you want to show people what you're made of?
Hey,
This person is apparently here to serve the people.
Give me the tyrant. Give me the tyrant.
Oh, look, it's the diamond thief.
Diamond thief. Diamond heister. He likes to steal diamonds. They're all criminals.
This isn't a personal attack on anyone here. I don't personally have a grudge or anything with Eric Adams or Kaz Daughtry. I'm just stating what I see here and what people, have a right to know, especially taxpayers, that you guys in New York City are funding this kind of stuff. And this goes like a microcosm, because as New York City goes, so does the country. So then there's this article that came out on Kaz Daughtry, because finally They are looking into something that I have been, stating for months. Kaz Dordry is a civilian, allegedly. At least that's what he says. That's what they say. He's a civilian. So then how is it that he is running around with an off-duty holster for his gun? His gun is showing. He's got a semi-uniform on. I don't understand this guy's role in the police department, and so do many others don't either. And here's an article that was written in regards to Kaz Dordry immediately following his, his apology to Rocco Periscandolo, who definitely does not deserve having Kaz Dordry threaten him anywhere. Press conference, out in the street. That is disgusting behavior by an NYPD executive. So let me read this to you. This is an excellent article done by the city on the illustrious Deputy Commissioner of Operations, Kaz Dordry, an individual who is abusive to his coworkers, to the media, and to the people that he encounters in the street. And this is unbelievable. The city's Civilian Complaint Review Board dropped 3 complaints of misconduct against a high-profile detective last year after he was promoted 6 ranks to assistant commissioner, a rare elevation to a civilian position that's generally deemed to be outside the agency's jurisdiction. The complaints against Kaz Dordry, who was since promoted a second time to Deputy Commissioner of Operations, were sidelined by the Police Review Board last summer after the New York Police Department removed Dordry's name from a members of service roster that indicates to the board which department employees it can investigate, according to CCRB officials. Despite that, Dordry has been photographed directly engaging in police enforcement actions over the past year while openly wearing a holstered gun on his right hip. Only non-civilian members of service are allowed to carry an exposed gun, several former NYPD officials have said. One of the 3 cases closed by the CCRB against Dordry was the subject of a lawsuit filed last week in Manhattan Supreme Court by Kashim McKnight, who claims that Dordry assaulted her at a vigil on May 8, 2023 by grabbing her arm and shoulder and slamming her to the ground. Videos of the arrest, which took place on Manhattan's Lower East Side after the vigilant killing of subway entertainer Jordan Neely, show McKnight running away from a crowd of officers and protesters while Dordry, who at the time was a detective in plain clothes, suddenly rushed to pursue her on foot. The video showed McKnight running into a street pole, after which Dordry grabs her from behind and throws her forcefully onto the pavement. Dordry didn't respond Thursday when asked about the lawsuit outside of a mayoral press conference. He's a longtime protege of NYPD Chief of Department Jeffrey Maddrey, and according to news reports, has been granted a direct line to the illustrious Mayor of New York, Eric Adams, who is also close with Maddrey. Dordry's leap in ranks is highly unusual in the recent history of the NYPD, even more so because he's had 51 allegations of misconduct filed against him with the CCRB during his 18-year career, although just 4 were substantiated. He's among 4 top of policing officials in the administration whose actions have generated controversy. Deputy Mayor Philip Banks was an unindicted co-conspirator in a federal case concerning police bribery under the prior administration. Senior mayoral advisor Timothy Pearson is the subject of 4 lawsuits claiming he sexually harassed a subordinate and retaliated against her colleagues who backed her. And in a case awaiting Caban's decision, the CCRB last year brought disciplinary charges against Maddrey for avoiding the arrest of an ex-cop who allegedly managed 3 kids with a gun. Needs to be clarified. The CCRB has jurisdiction solely over uniformed members of the police department. Dordry was named Assistant Commissioner in July 2023 and promoted to Deputy Commissioner in February 2024, which are both civilian titles. He is currently listed as inactive in personnel records that are updated by the NYPD according to CCRB officials. Dordry wore his gun visibly as recently as Thursday to the mayoral press conference, which underscored this dichotomy. The CCRB closes investigations of Dordry when he was promoted to a civilian title, while he was seemingly retained uniformed officers' right to openly carry a gun. The juxtaposition has sparked questions among current and former NYPD officials about which status should apply while he is in his current job. I know a lot of people that were deputy commissioners. I don't know one of them that openly carried. John McCarry, a retired lieutenant who has been critical of NYPD leadership, said on a recent episode of his podcast, "I'm not sitting here saying that Kaz Dordry is a civilian, and I'm not sitting here saying Kaz Dordry is a uniformed member of service," he added. "I'm saying that needs to be clarified. In a response to a Freedom of Information law request obtained by the city, the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, which keeps personnel records, stated in April that Daughtry was on leave from his position as a police officer. That opens the possibility that in promoting Daughtry, NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban was adhering to an obscure section of the city charter that allows the mayor or commissioners to temporarily fill a high-level vacancy with someone who has a competitive civil service position, such as a police officer. In the temporary role, that person would exercise all powers and duties and receive the salary of their new position while retaining all the rights, privileges, and statuses of their prior one, according to this charter. The NYPD press office didn't respond to multiple questions about Daughtry, including whether he's considered a civilian or uniform member and what his duties are as deputy commissioner. CCRB officials didn't respond when asked whether they believe that the charter provision could, in fact, allow them to continue the 3 cases against Daughtry if his status is still a police officer. The Oversight Board reviews instances of police misconduct that include use of force, abuse of authority, and false official statements, and prosecutes the most serious cases at disciplinary trials overseen by the NYPD administrative judge. The police commissioner has final say over disciplinary outcomes. More complaint records. McKnight's lawsuit, which names additional NYPD members as defendants, and McKnight was falsely arrested, had the charges against her dropped by the Manhattan District Attorney within months of the protest. My client, Shakim, a trans woman, suffered orbital fractures and other injuries after being assaulted by the NYPD brass while she was filming at the Jordan Neely Vigil, said McKnight's attorney, John Paul DeVerner. The NYPD press office told the New York Daily News, which was first to report the lawsuit, that McKnight's injuries arose from the run-in with the light pole. A still photo posted online also shows Daughtry kneeling on McKnight's back. The nature of the complaints against Daughtry and the 2 other CCOB cases aren't publicly available because the cases are still open against other officers allegedly involved in those incidents, but both of which took place in the weeks before McKnight's encounter with police. A 4th complaint against Daughtry, also filed in April 2023, was closed 2 months later, pending litigation. It hasn't been reopened since. One of the complainants in the case, Emmanuel Williams, said he and his friends were sitting on their newly bought motorcycles near a curb in Bedford-Stuyvesant when 2 unmarked police officers boxed them in. Williams who later learned that the pair had been suspected of carrying out a gunpoint robbery, said he was close onto the ground when the officers jumped out of the vehicle and his buddy was knocked off his motorcycle with one of the vehicles. He fell off the bike set on fire, and they took him to jail, Williams told the city this summer. Though Daughtry's name in Williams' complaint, it's unclear what role he allegedly played in the incident. Williams said the charge against her were eventually dropped, but he questioned why they had been suspects in the first place. I'm 40-something years old. I ain't doing no shooting robbery, Williams said. You think I'd do a shooting robbery and sit there? In an interview with the New York Daily News last year, Daughtry said footage from a police helicopter shows that any police vehicle contact with the motorcycle came when the driver tried to squeeze past them and he was boxed in. Boy, oh boy. So the question still remains, is Kaz Daughtry a civilian or a uniformed member of service? Nobody could clarify this. So then this was asked at a recent press conference to the mayor of the city, Eric Adams. And thank goodness for John McCarry, a good friend of mine from the Finest Unfiltered podcast. He actually posted this, and here's the clip.
My question for Mayor Adams is about Deputy Commissioner Daughtry.
Yes.
Is he a civilian or uniformed member of service? Because he open carries like a uniformed police officer, but I know he's outside, my colleague Yoav reported that he's outside the purview of the CCRB like a civilian. So can you clarify, does the CCRB currently have jurisdiction over Deputy Commissioner Daughtry? And if so, can they reopen the investigation they closed last year? And if they don't, when there are incidences of, what we see last year where he slammed a protester to the ground, who, I guess, is there any authority over him that can discipline him?
Yeah, and Lisa, I'm not sure. I've been out of the agency for a while. Do you know the answer to that question?
The question about the CCRB's authority?
Yeah. Do they have oversight? I knew there was something in the patrol guide about when I think CCRB was uniform. Let me check. We get you today.
It was published last week. Has there been any investigation? Since I know we've reached out for comment, there wasn't much. I don't think clarity. My colleague
investigation for what?
Just on we did a story last week about this sort of gray area. It seems. I know he's sometimes open carries and does things and does events, and he's seen in public open carrying like a police officer. So, but you don't know at this moment who has the authority.
You said you asked this question last week, or
My colleague wrote a story last week, and I didn't reach out to various.
You know, they should ask a question. You know, I mean, I don't comb through the papers and try to proactively answer your question.
You get all the news you need. You know?
Right. You know, so let us find out. I recall vaguely that CCRB are over uniformed personnel, but no matter who you are, there are oversight agencies in the city. I don't if you're uniform or non-uniform. No one goes free without having some form of oversight. But we get that direct answer for you. I don't want to give you yes, by the day. How are you, Julia?
Okay, many hours after this press conference, the NYPD DCPI office released their statement in regards to Kaz Daughtry's role, or what exactly his role is, or somewhat of his role in the New York City Police Department. But it was released through someone, let's just reference this individual as the Migrant Shelter Czar, a.k.a. Bootlicker News. And they stated that Kaz Daughtry, via the police commissioner's powers, that they are, using a provision in the New York City Charter and stating that Kaz Daughtry is allowed to be a commissioner that keeps his police powers somehow, and that the jurisdiction of the oversight on Kaz Daughtry doesn't fall from the CCRB, but it falls under the Department of Investigation. Now, there's some clarity here, but really not. The key question here is not about CCRB. It's not about the DOI, actually. It's about what the hell is this guy's legal authority? The legal definition of his legal authority in the NYPD. Because is he allowed to make arrests? Is he allowed? I mean, all of this stuff is still a lot of questions. But it's funny that they mentioned the DOI. Because way back in February, yours truly filed a complaint with the Department of Investigation. And I did make it public right after this little statement was put on the internet, because I filed a complaint and I actually spoke to someone in the Department of Investigations in regards to Kaz Daughtry's official legal authority in the New York City Police Department. Define his legal authority. There has been no response from the Department of Investigation once after I spoke to them, and he has gone on to get involved in numerous incidents in the street. You just saw a video of him antagonizing, I guess, protesters or just regular people in the street. And there's still no word. So this thing is a complete sham, in my opinion. The Department of Investigation has yet to inform me or the public what the legal authority of one Kaz Daughtry is as Deputy Commissioner of Operations. How is he allowed to drive a New York City Police Department unmarked vehicle when civilians are not allowed to drive that vehicle and flip the lights on? Remember, are you a police officer or are you not? This is something that we're going to keep an eye on. We're not going to drop this subject because New York City taxpayers are on the hook for a lot of stuff in regards to Kaz Daughtry. There's going to be future litigations with this guy. He was involved in the Columbia University protest, and his legal authority has yet to be determined, and I'm sure lawyers are looking into this fact. So with that being said, I don't want to end this episode on such a sour note talking about Kaz Daughtry and the NYPD and everything that's occurred in the last few days. So, as you know, I'm a food aficionado, and I love to go out and try out pizza because I'm really originally from the food business. That's what my background originally was from, long before I was in law enforcement. Remember, I'm a Brooklyn kid from Bensonhurst. So I went to a certain pizzeria, and I'll be doing this more often where I will go to a pizzeria and do a review. No, I'm not Dave Portnoy. I'm not Barstool Sports, but I do know how to imagine eating is good. So with that being said, if you like what you saw here, like, share, and subscribe. On Rumble, hit the Rumble button. On all the major platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Play. Just keep replaying this, share this out. Your comments are very well appreciated. And please, again, like, share, and subscribe. Join the conversation. Enjoy this review, because remember, it's all about imagine eating this good. And we're going to end on a high note here. And I'll see you all very soon. So we're here at Nick's Pizza on Collins Avenue around here in the heart of Miami. And already I can tell here, this guy has a great operation. He's got a giant slice, the biggest slice you can get in Miami. This reminds me of some like a New York thing, you know what I mean? Or anyway, this is a monstrosity of a slice. So you don't even have to get a whole pie unless you're going to feed your whole family. Okay? So, look at that. See that undercarriage is great? This looks like something you would get out of Manhattan. This is very good. I don't know if you heard that crunch. You could hear that down in Brooklyn. This is very New York kind of stylish kind of pizza. So if you live in this area, I can see you hanging out here. This would be a place that, once again, if I lived at Miami Beach, I live here at Collins Avenue, or you go to college down here, or whatever the case is, I come here every night just to hang out and have pizza. Definitely, if you're in Miami, come check out Nick's Pizza. It's a taste of New York City in the heart of Miami. And imagine eating this good.